at the very beginning of the war, you did have something that was tech related, and they were taking old Cessna aircraft, the very, very light aircraft, which is only meant to carry one or two passengers, filling it with explosives, a few guidance chips, and just sending it into Russia. I mean, this was the very, very early days before we had incredible quadcopters. And it was just an amazing sight to see that Ukrainians figured out, hey, let's just take out some of the weight, put some explosives, put it in cruise control and send it into Russia. So yes, Ukrainians are doing a lot of adapting current systems that are laying around into kind of smart weapons, especially when we don't have access to all of the missile stocks and incredible technology that America and NATO has. We have to do stuff like filling Cessnas full of explosives and sending it towards military targets.
Hello and welcome to The Future of War, our series on the technology shaping the future of conflict and security globally. We're joined again today by Richard Woodruff, the founder of Frontline Kit, who works on both the technological and sometimes literal front line of military innovation, manufacturing drones and related technologies with the Ukrainian military. Richard, thank you very much for joining us again.
Dobry den, Louis. Good to see you.
Well, we're going to be discussing missiles again this week. The UK has agreed to build this new system, the Nightfall missile for Ukraine. Richard, what do we know about this missile and what's it expected to do?
Well, I don't know about you, Louis, but I can't really remember the last time the British were developing a missile system, and to be partnering up with the Ukrainians in terms of developing a brand new ballistic missile, which in terms is a short-range ballistic missile, because we're only talking about 500 to 600 kilometers range, but it does allow Ukraine to do these deep strikes into Russian territory in places such as command posts and really hard to reach targets which can't be reached by traditional artillery or drones. It's really the big hitting missile that's going to make the difference across not only the front lines, but actually deep into the rear. And yeah, this is being developed by the British, and I think it's being developed for the fact that we can't really rely too much on the American missile systems anymore, of them being withheld. And that was actually one of the specific design characteristics, is that this shouldn't have too much outside input into it. And it's another reason why it's a ballistic missile, because you don't have to worry about it being jammed. It's just following its ballistic trajectory towards the target. And that's exactly what Ukraine needs right now, because Russia is so saturated with electronic warfare that most normal missiles, cruise missiles and the like, can get jammed on the way to the target by blocking one of the ways it's interfacing with the operator or the navigation systems, where ballistic, up and down, quite simple, and the British have gone, let's make a few of these to help out the Ukrainians. Slight downside is it's going to take a year of British development to actually come up with an idea. This is still very much in the planning stage. There are 3 companies competing currently for the £9 million jackpot to actually produce these things. And they've been told by the British government it has to be in Ukraine and working by 2027. So we're a little far off still, but it's exciting times to come. And because of the quantities they're going to be making, they're only going to be making about 10 of these per month. Ukraine really is going to have to use it for its very strategic hits, command bunkers and the likes. It can't just pepper the land with this kind of ballistic missile.
Yeah, and it's interesting that part of Ukrainian military technology they've had to deal with, of a lot of their kit almost not being their own, even though they're the ones firing it. This thing you mentioned where there are systems that will be owned by a third-party country that can be switched off. How often does that come up as a problem for a lot of the military technology in Ukraine, especially with things like Starlink being used to run a lot of even basic equipment?
Yeah, I mean, Elon turning off Starlink, going to the Sea Baby boats, the kamikaze boats on the way to Crimea, that was horrendous, and that probably cost a lot of that operation actually succeeding. Was Elon just flicking the switch, and he can do this. You're now seeing it all around the world where Elon has that magical button to just go, no more internet for you guys, and it is slightly terrifying. But the worst thing is actually the traditional missiles, and the reason it's the worst thing is because the United States gives all of the satellite imagery to actually be able to tell the Ukrainians exactly where to hit. And the second you take away that information, effectively all of their amazing, fantastic American missiles just become dead in the water. They can take away Ukraine's ability to have the contour matching function. They can take away the exact ability to target a GPS coordinate. And then therefore it's just the Ukrainians that just have to figure out on whatever technology they have, roughly where a target is. Whereas, the Americans, thanks to their incredible satellites, can give Ukraine the ability to do all of these deep strikes. And across the past nearly 4 years now, or maybe even more than 4 years, Ukraine has constantly had this ability taken away from them. There have been multiple occasions where Donald Trump has turned around and gone, yeah, we're not going to give that to you because we do not want you to do these strikes. And yeah, Ukraine doesn't want that. The allies don't want that. Like we want to be able to hit what we can see, not be held back by Americans flicking a switch and saying, sorry, no more information for you.
And as you kind of point out there, the story of much of Ukrainian military innovation over the last 4 years has been adaptability. There's a lot of other Western weapons or older donated systems, and it's created this whole sort of micro industry of, if you'll forgive me, bodging these things onto Ukrainian and sometimes even older Soviet kit in order to use it. I mean, the most recent example being the French ASSM Hammer missile. How's that been deployed, and what does that tell us about the way the Ukrainians have had to adapt kit for very different systems?
Yeah, that is just an unbelievably incredible piece of kit. You have both the Russians and the Ukrainians doing the exact same thing, which is taking pretty similar old Soviet bombs and trying to slap some kind of kit on them, some kind of guidance or gliding kit to make them actually hit the eventual target. The Russians are just doing it with two steel wings that pop out, so it glides roughly towards the area. But the Ukrainians are using the incredible French system, which also has rocket propulsion on the back of some of these units, and also infrared and heat-seeking target acquisition on the front of it. So effectively, you're taking a very dumb Soviet bomb and you're strapping rocket propulsion on the back, and you're strapping a target guidance system on the front. And yeah, it means that you can accurately hit a target, but you don't even need to hit that accurately because the size of the warhead, the size of the munition is so large that you don't even have to hit within 20 meters. But you know, these systems are making it possible to be so accurate, and it's extending the range of something which would just be a dumb dropped bomb from having to be dropped directly above the target to 50 plus miles out from the target. So it just gives Ukraine the ability to actually protect its air force rather than dropping bombs out from the wings. It's using this rocket propulsion to make sure Ukrainian pilots stay safe and old Soviet missiles actually hit targets rather than just creating craters in towns.
Indeed, and we've seen a lot of this adaptability not just being applied to kind of the donated military kit from the West, but it's also being used with older Ukrainian civilian systems. I'm thinking of how light aircraft were converted into kind of long-range drones. I saw a video yesterday of what was described as a sort of agricultural or crop duster aircraft carrying what was called anti-drone missiles. I mean, how much equipment is also being turned from civilian use into military use as well?
Yes, I mean, there's lots of cases of Ukrainian aviation being used right now to shoot down these Shahed drones. What's fantastic is that a lot of it isn't tech related. It's two guys in an old aeroplane with the roof hatch open, firing a machine gun out of it, which is just mind blowing. And at the very beginning of the war, you did have something that was tech related, and they were taking old Cessna aircraft, the very, very light aircraft, which is only meant to carry 1 or 2 passengers, filling it with explosives, a few guidance chips, and just sending it into Russia. I mean, this was the very, very early days before we had incredible quadcopters. And it was just an amazing sight to see that Ukrainians figured out, hey, let's just take out some of the weight, put some explosives, put it in cruise control and send it into Russia. So yes, Ukrainians are doing a lot of adapting current systems that are laying around into kind of smart weapons, especially when we don't have access to all of the missile stocks and incredible technology that America and NATO has. We have to do stuff like filling Cessnas full of explosives and sending it towards military targets. So yeah, that's the kind of adaptations that we're making to civilian aircraft. But we are also doing it in the drone sphere as well, at the level that we're working on.
Yeah, indeed, because the drones, a lot of the drones you work with, the kind of original model that was started with was a racing drone, wasn't it? So how much kind of retrofitting, adapting goes into your work with kamikaze drones and interceptors?
And that is the incredible thing. It's a hobby drone. That is the thing. Every drone that is in Ukraine flying around right now came from and was birthed from the industry of hobby drone flying. And every good pilot, every good drone builder has spent probably years of their life now watching Joshua Bardwell videos on YouTube and seeing exactly how to program these drones, exactly how to fly these drones, exactly how to tune these drones to deal with what would be a camera in normal times, but an explosive munition during wartime, adjusting all of this tuning to the ways of war. And what is really incredible, the Ukrainians and the Russians had done this, is just taking something very simple from China, like a foam plane, ripping out the insides and filling it with just consumer grade electronics, guidance modules to get it to its target. So the majority of the drones that you're seeing across the front lines are consumer grade stuff with now some military tech. I mean, we're using military grade frequency video transmitters. The usual public cannot buy. You can't even get the software to access and program these things. But that's starting like now. That's starting over the past year. For the past 3 years prior to that, it was all just completely consumer grade stuff with some computer technology added to it. Apart from, of course, these huge drones which didn't exist pre-war, apart from agricultural drones. But just incredible what the Ukrainians are doing, adapting existing technologies into war fighting machines.
It certainly is, and we're very grateful to have you to kind of explain it all for us, Richard. But Richard Woodruff, founder of Frontline Kit, thank you very much for joining us again today on The Future of War.
Дуже дякую.